how do I breathe for rowing? Let me put a really angry dog running behind you. What are you gonna do?
And if your stroke rate is high, your breath has to come to join it. I like the bike as a way to practice nasal breathing.
Is your breath controlling you? And if you can't dance, I'm so sorry. High stress, poor performance, poor sleep, anxiety, all of these things are happening and you're not sure why. There's a really good chance that your breath is the culprit. There's one primary tool that you are missing in order to put you in control so that you don't have to worry about all of those things. And plenty of research over the past few years from the likes of Andrew Huberman, Wim Hoff, and others is showing us exactly what's necessary to put you in the driver's seat. It turns out you're probably breathing wrong. And I can hear what you're saying. Hey, listen, I got this breathing thing on lock. In fact, I'm breathing right now as I watch this video. But the question I would pose to you is, are you controlling your breath or is your breath controlling you?
Oh my God.
And that is the point that we need to uncover. So let's start with breath being a core tenet to the existence of humanity. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have the likes of Andrew Huberman or Wim Hof creating breathing protocols or researching the importance of breath in order to find more efficient ways of doing it. So beginning with just what oxygen does. Well, it fuels our brain, our muscle tissue, our organs. Those are the things that are kind of important in order for us to exist. However, where it gets really interesting is what our breath does at a deeper level. In fact, it gives us the ability to start to regulate what's happening with our autonomic nervous system. Well, what's that? Our autonomic nervous system is what upregulates or downregulates us. Things like your bladder control, or your pupil dilation, or your kidney function, your digestion processes. All of those things are controlled or can be controlled by your breath. When you control your breath and when you have good physical control and exercise over that, you are going to begin to improve all of the factors that come along with it. Now, there are different ways that we can practice our breath. The first being static and dynamic. Static meaning not moving position. Dynamic, I'm on the Skierg, the rower, the biker. Now there's one way of breathing that in Andrew Huberman's research he's calling sighing. And I think this is the preferred starting place for where you're going to practice your breath. When you relax, you sit down on the couch at night at the end of a long, hard day, what's the thing that you do? You sigh. The exhale is longer than the inhale. You let out this long, drawn-out exhale, and what do you naturally do as a result of the sigh? You relax. A great way to do that is to start with a 6-second inhale followed by an 8-second exhale. It's a controlled exhale, and the primary way of doing that is by closing your mouth and letting the air move in and out only through your nose. Then we get into controlled, or sometimes called tactical breathing, again referencing Huberman's research report. Controlled breathing is where we use what are either called box breathing techniques or triangle breathing techniques. They're simply moments in which we control the inhale, exhale, as well as retention breaths. A box breath, it would be a hold at the top of the breath, a controlled out, a hold at the bottom with no air, and a controlled inhale. However long you are comfortable with, that's box breathing. Triangle breathing usually just removes the breath hold at the bottom or the retention hold at the bottom. So now you would have a controlled inhale, a hold at the top, a controlled exhale, right back into the controlled inhale. And that's triangle breathing. Maybe you think about it as an upside down pyramid. These are all concepts for how you control your breath. And the place to start is in a static setting. Sitting down, learning to control your breath. And now let's talk about the dynamic. But first I want to start with an analogy. If I were to have you walk down the street at a very casual pace, think about what your breathing rate would be. Picture it. It would be very low, calm. Your heart rate would be low and calm. Now, let me put a really angry dog running behind you. What are you gonna do? You're gonna take off on a sprint, right? And when that happens, what's gonna happen to your breath rate and your heart rate? They're gonna skyrocket. And what happens to your stress response? It skyrockets. Guess what? That's not a coincidence. Those two things are paired together. Now, let's say that you kept that breathing rate and that heart rate, but I told you that you had to go to a calm walking pace. You would feel extremely disconnected. Something wouldn't feel right. You wouldn't be able to keep doing that. The point being that your body and your breath are intimately connected. in how they upregulate and downregulate each other. Now for this instance, the question is, how do I breathe for rowing? I want you to just breathe with your normal rate, but I want you to think about if you are allowing your body to control your breathing rate, or if you're using your breathing rate to control your body. And if you're somebody who has sat on a rowing machine and you're thinking, how do I control my breath? It's just, I'm always hyperventilating. Well, it's because most likely your stroke rate is too high all the time. And if your stroke rate is high, your breath has to come to join it. There's no way to control your breath in this instance. So to control my breath, I have to slow my body. But based off what we just said, how do we do that? I slow my breathing rate. And my body naturally slows down to match my breathing rate because it's going to feel like an uncomfortable disconnect. But that is how we breathe for rowing. Now on a bike, it's slightly different because I'm not using as much upper body as I am, or full body as I am on other things. So I have more of an opportunity to sit here and focus a little bit more on my breath, which is why I like the bike as a way to practice nasal breathing. Nasal breathing during exercise can be really tough because when your heart rate starts to climb, you really want to start gasping for breath because I can get a lot more air in. And so when you go to nasal breathing during exercise, it will generally reduce your performance at first, but it's an amazing way to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. As you do that, you'll gradually find comfort. And when you do that, it means you're now in control. Now, when we were talking about the Skierg and beyond, any other machine, running, treadmill, what have you, you kind of understand the concepts now. Does my breathing, or is my breathing so out of control that I can't control my body, or is my body rate controlling my breath? You understand the relationship between the two. And so now if you need to control your breathing, guess what? You probably need to bring your body rate down so that it can match your breathing rate, or vice versa. You can start on whichever end you want. Ultimately, your breathing rate is your breathing rate. You need to control it. You need to understand your rhythm. If you can dance, then you've got a sense of rhythm. And if you can't dance, I'm so sorry, but you do need to be able to breathe and learn how to control it. Now, when you're in a dynamic state, it's gonna be tougher to control things like box breathing, triangle breathing, sighing. Those things will be difficult. So when you're in these dynamic exercises, it's a good time to simply focus on breathing rate or nasal breathing only. And focusing on your breath is one thing, and a critical one at that. But you might also be focusing on trying to lose some weight at this moment. And if that's the case, then guess what? That one's gonna be just for you. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure that you subscribe and hit that like button. See you later.